Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good day. It's your girl, Lady Q. And so, welcome to Coffee for Your Soul. But see, this one is a little bit different. My son and I did an interview. We interviewed each other about 4 years ago. And so, that was in 2021, 2022 that we interviewed each other 4 years ago. And the conversation about it is about a 30-minute conversation. And in that time span, I learned some things from my son and how he saw me. It was an opportunity for us to have just really um a solid time to just ask questions. And I am a very, very, very open mom. I'm a transparent mother. And with that being said, I'm one of them moms that you can ask me anything. As long as you're respectful, you can ask me anything. And if my children think that what they're going to say is um, disrespectful, they'll come with the preface of, Mom, I'm not sure if this is disrespectful. And then, okay, go ahead and open up. But this is with my oldest son, who is now 30. And so at the time that we had the conversation, it was me asking him really about how he saw me and the things that he knew about me from my past and the things that I had went through and how he saw me as a child and how he see me as an adult. And now that he's had certain experiences in life, what was the difference in what was his views? And it was interesting to hear him say some of the things because there was things that for him really didn't change. And then moving forward, at the time, he had two sons and a daughter, and the youngest daughter was 10 months. And so that's my little Bella Boo. And so at the point in time, I had expressed to him as a grandmother, I was scared. I wasn't scared because of my grandsons. I am a boy mom. I have three sons um, that are 30, 20, and 12. Yes, significant age gap. And so having children that have a significant age gap is almost like I have three only children because they function as only children. The age gap caused them to be in different generational spaces with one another. Did I plan it for it to be that way? No, God did. And so when I look at now my son and his wife, my daughter in love, uh, I look at like, wow, how do you do it? Because their children are like 2 years and 3 years apart. And now I understand why God didn't make my children close together. Cause I don't think that, you know, it would have been too much for me. And so those parents that have children that are close together, God bless you. That's amazing. So how God saw fit to to iron me out as being a mom. My children are 10 and 8 years apart from each other. And so yes, they function as only children. That means each one of them get a time with me that's individual from each other. So when I had my oldest son, Isaias, and then I had Makai, what I was talking to Isaias about was not the same thing I was talking to Makai about. And then when I had Liam, obviously not the same thing. They were in three different categories. And so with that being said, it's been interesting because they actually do function as three only children that grew up in the same household. And so it's kind of funny watching them together because with Isaias, he's like the big brother to Makai, but he's like the uncle, kind of sort of father figure to his brother Liam. Isaias was on his way to college when I found out I was pregnant with Liam. And so none of this was not just by, oh yeah, a plan. God planned it. It was God's plan. It was not my plan. It was God's plan. But yet now, in hindsight is 2020. I understand now why my children are spaced apart. And so it's been truly a blessing having them in their age gaps and differences with one another. And so, like I was saying, being a grandmother scared me when it came time for my granddaughter. I have three sons. I am a boy mom. My personality is that of a boy mom. I am an assertive mom. I am not a touchy feely mom. I'm not a helicopter mom. I don't hover. So, with that being said, um, yeah, girls are different. Girls are extremely different. And so, with my granddaughter, I began to question myself. Am I the woman that God have created me to be an example as a woman, as a mother, as a wife? And so when my granddaughter came along, it caused me to question a lot of things. And at the same time, she softened me a whole lot in places that I didn't think was even possible. My granddaughter truly softened me, but I feel like her mother was the precursor to the softening because her mother, when I initially met her, I was her mentor, and I just loved on her and things of that nature. And eventually, later on down the line, because I met my daughter in law first. And so later on down the line, her and my son started dating and things of that nature. So, with that being said, my daughter in law used to tell me at the time, she would tell me, Mom, you're just like so abrasive, so rough, so aggressive. And I didn't realize that because none of my sons ever said anything like that to me. They didn't see me that way. And so I was like, well, what do you mean? This is just who I am. But then I learned how to soften up. Compassion has always been there, but I've never been this touchy feely person. And so even with my daughter in law, before she even became my daughter in law, she taught me how to soften up a little bit, how to slow down a little bit, how to really be present in her emotions because her emotions is different than my son's emotions. Men are different. Males are different. Male children are different. They're not so emotional. God did not create them to be such emotional creatures. And so it was different with them. It was like, okay, well, let's take care of this. Let's take care of that. Let's take care of this. Let's do this. Um, and let's just keep it moving. But with her, um, I was put in a position where I had to sit. So let's talk about your emotions. How do you feel? Where are you? So it caused me to slow down. And so I feel like she was the precursor for my granddaughter, but I didn't know that at the time. So later on, as her and my son dated and they got married and they're having children and things of that nature and they're living life. And then my granddaughter comes along. And oh boy, she scared me. I knew how to handle my grandsons because I already had three sons. That was simple. Boys are boys. Boys is they just boys. But my granddaughter, she is the most feminine little girl in the world. She is a let's sit down and have a conversation. Let's play with these dolls and tea parties and all of that. I don't know what any of that is. I know what building Legos are. I know what rolling cars across the floor. I know what it is to build a track and do those things. And let's go outside and run and play. And you scraped your knee, let me dust you off. And my granddaughter is very much so um very princess like, feminine like. She is the epitome of girly girl. If you go to the dictionary, you will see Bella. Bella loves makeup and jewelry, and she dresses up, I think, almost every day. If you let her, she'll change her clothes 3 to 5 times a day. Um, at such a at such a little girl that she was at the age of 1, she had a little bitty purse. Bella is serious about her shoes that she put on and her outfits and what she wants to wear. And she has her mind set. By the time she was 2, 3 years old, she knew what she wanted to wear. Boys are not like that. Boys don't care what they wear. They don't care what you give them to wear. But Bella cared what you gave her to wear. And so I had to learn because my husband and I, at a certain point, um, kept Bella. We had her for 8 months at a time. And so, yes, we've kept her for a long time. She's practically my daughter. She's my granddaughter. She's my goddaughter. And so, with that being said, she has a lot of my ways and characteristics. And so, it's like she's constantly holding a mirror in front of me. But at the time that she was born, I was terrified. I was scared as a grandmother. I was like, oh my God, what do I do with a little girl? Now, mind you, I've always desired to have a girl. I cried and begged God for a girl. Throughout the years of having my children, I would cry and Lord, I want a little girl. And God blessed me with a little girl through my granddaughter. And boy, she is a larger than life personality. She is very expressive. And now that, you know, looking at her and how she's grown and who she is and the beauty of who she is as a little girl now at the age of 4, um, she's absolutely amazing. I'm sorry, she's 5. She's absolutely amazing. And so she has all of this that's going on with her. No, she is not 5. She'll be 5 October 2nd. And so with that being said, that scared me. So when me and my son was having this conversation, the whole grandchild thing came up. Him having perceptions of me throughout his childhood. And so there were some things that he expressed that I had no idea that my son viewed me as. And so I wanted to do this because it's always good to sit down with your children and ask them, what do they think of you? When they've learned things about your past, how did that impact them? Oftentimes as parents, we go through life and we live life and we experience life, and some of us have dealt with having to deal with trauma and different things in our life, and we have children and our children hear about what we've gone through, and a lot of times we don't sit down and talk to them. We don't ask them, how did that impact you? What did that do for you? What did you think of that? um how did that help you? Where is it that you have questions for me, or do you see in your life, when you look at me as mom, other things that I could have done? I've always been a firm believer in asking my children their perspective. What do they think? um, Things that they've seen or heard about their mother, what do they think? Because I do believe that although God has gifted us these children, right? God has given us these children as gifts and their blessings. And we have to be careful how we handle the gifts that God has given us, that we have to stand in the mirror and ask the question, am I doing what the Lord has called me to do in my child's life? And by asking them those questions, you get the mirror reflection of what you're doing or how you're impacting them. And so I'm always been so open to that. And so if you haven't done that with your children, sit down and talk to them. Start when they're young. About every 5 years, ask them the same questions. See how those questions have evolved, the answers have evolved to your questions, because it lets you know who you are, how you're seeing, how far you've come, um, how far you haven't yet come, and where you still have yet to grow. Because I've had to learn as a parent. I have 3 sons that have grown up in the same house, but they have not gotten the same parent. So my oldest son, how I communicate with him is not how I communicate with my middle son. It's not how I communicate with my youngest son. Yet and still, they all get the same principles. They all get the same teaching, but it's how I engage them. And so I'm dealing with 3 different personalities. So dealing with 3 different personalities, I'm teaching 3 different personalities. So how I teach one, I can't teach another. So not only that, where I was at 20 is not the same place I was at 30 and not the same place I was when I was almost 40. And so, with that being said, although they've grown up in the same house with the same principles, the same teachings, guess what? They still get a different mom, all three of them. And so, with that being said, I've always wanted to know, like, what do you see? How are you being impacted? Where does there need to be growth and things of that nature? And my sons are wonderful. I can't complain at all about who any of them are because they all have their own journey and they got to figure it out in some areas. In some areas they got to press through, in some areas they got to lean, and it's always my prayer and my hope that my ending is their beginning. And so somebody may say, well, what does that mean? That means wherever I end, that's where I want them to start, which also means that they are to stand on my shoulders. What I can't see, that when it's time, they should be able to see. They should be able to see further than what I can see, as long as I give them the wholeness of what God has given me for them, that they can stand on my shoulders, looking beyond where I can see, being elevated above the position that I'm in. And so, understanding that, yes, God has given them as blessings, as gifts. And yes, I am a mom, but it also comes a point where in this walk with the Lord and being a mother, I become a spiritual mom to my children. So, where I was the mom that did all the teaching and all the nurturing and all the loving and all the chastising, that when they go into those years, those adult years, there's a transition in my motherhood. I can't talk to my 30-year-old the way that I talked to him when he was 20 and when he was 10. My conversation has to evolve with him. um my correction has to evolve with him. My instruction has to evolve with him. If it was something that he did as a little child that I repeated myself, and then there came a moment of chastisement, that as his adult years come along, it's not so much of chastisement to let me pop you on the behind. It's not so much a chastisement that I'm yelling at you. Now it's, let's have a conversation. What is it that you're doing? What is it that you see? And how can you grow and how can you do better? And this is how I talk to my children. I talk to them like that as young people, but even as they get older, even the more. It's a conversation to whereas my oldest son, he'll call me and say, Mom, I need to bounce something off of you because I don't know if I'm looking at this the wrong way, the right way, or if there's something else that I'm missing. And he will pour out, and I could help guide him if it's something that he's missing. I could help give correction if it's an area that he's just way off on. But we have that conversation. It's not me telling him what to do, when to do, how to do, and how you should do it, and the experience that I have, because the reality of it is I may have more life experience than him, but yet and still our experiences won't be exactly the same. The outcome, we could go through the exact same thing and I can tell them exactly how I did it. It doesn't mean that his outcome is going to be the same. And if the Lord allows me to see something, that I may be able to speak to him in wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, I can speak to him from a space that's going to help him grow, not from a space that he get off the phone and be like, dang, I don't even know why I talked to my mom. Dang, because I don't want that. That's not the type of relationship that I have with my children. And so, with that being said, even with my middle son, Makai, and it's funny, we had this conversation earlier. For my oldest son, I could say all the things of him growing up and my tone could go up, but he's going to hold on to the substance. My middle son couldn't handle elevated vocal tones. So he needed to know, okay, mom is not fussing at me. She's actually talking. And because of my vocal tone, oftentimes I have to say to my 20-year-old son, I am not fussing at you, just to give him a precursor that he's not being fussed at. And then my youngest son, He doesn't like it when I'm mad. So I have to tell him when I'm talking to him, I'm not mad at you. I could be talking to him softly. His only concern is, Mom, are you mad? He can't think past me being mad. And my middle can't think past me fussing, but my oldest son is just, I'm just gonna take it however you give it to me, and then I'll figure it out. And so, with that being said, and you'll learn in the video, I'll figure it out is a key term for him. And so, I really wanted to share this moment that I had with my oldest son and having this conversation, because I believe that every parent should have these conversations with their children that are growing up, and hopefully, and what is being shared, you can learn from, you can grow from, share it with one of your children, and maybe it can start a conversation that can help even grow your relationship ever the more. It's not about the relationship is broken and it needs to be mended. It's not every relationship has to be broken to be mended. You could have a great relationship, but how can we even strengthen that which we have? So it's not, about anything more than just being transparent enough to talk to your children and to grow from the things that are being said. And if you are a grandmother, being able to look at your grandchildren and say, okay, God, am I exemplifying what you have for me to exemplify? And so if you're a boy mom, I know you could definitely relate to what I'm saying about, having sons, and then my granddaughter coming along. Oh my gosh. Um and I don't know. I'm not the type of mom that hovers. They can tell you that, because I hardly talk to my son, in the sense of, I don't talk to him every day. I don't necessarily talk to him every week. I think I talk to my daughter in love more than I talk to my son. Me and her talk quite frequently. Because he was like, oh, you're talking to my mom. I realize you're talking to my mom. I think I need to put boundaries there because y'all are talking too much. And he said it in a joke and things of that nature. But I talk to her more than I talk to him. And with that being said, I don't have to talk to him every day and every other day. I don't need to be in the middle of what's going on, unless he extends something to me and say, Mom, I need your perspective of what's going on. And so again, I did this to bring about the fact that, as parents, let us be open and let us grow with our children, because God don't only use us that they may be elevated, but there's a pour back where the Lord will bring us up. And so I hope and pray that this blesses you, and again, that it can help you on your own journey with your own children, including your grandchildren, and even those that the Lord may have in your life that you may be mentoring. And so I just want you to be blessed by this. And it's your girl, Lady Q, and I am getting ready to cue the video as you go into the video. And if you want to give any feedback, you want to respond to it, you can email me at coffeewithladyq@gmail.com, or you can just find me on Instagram at your girl, YAGURL, Lady Q. And so you all be blessed.
You just continue to push, you continue to fight.
You was there for my struggles.
Yeah, exactly. I was there for all of it. So that definitely is like one of the biggest things I remember when I was younger.
Okay, so do you remember me having to go to New York for 9/11 and how that impacted you?
Yes, definitely. I was boo crying because, like, oh no, my mom's going to a war zone. Again, I'm young. I don't really know what's happening, but like all I know is like, oh, somebody attacked, this city, and now my mom is going. My mom's going to be in a war.
Because you were probably about 7 or 8.
Yes.
And you were staying with your grandmother. And I remember calling you on the phone, telling you, that I had to leave and go to New York. And I remember you crying because you thought, okay, Mom is going to this war. I don't know if you're coming back.
Yes.
And so I remember consoling you during that time of having to leave for 9/11.
Yeah, all I could think of was like, my mom's going to a war. And like, what if she doesn't come back? Like, what am I going to do without a mom? Like, I can't not have a mom. Everybody has a mom.
So, of course, everybody has a mom.
So,
But I mean, that's just a thought process of a young kid not knowing all the details and not knowing, okay, that I'm leaving. And the funny thing about it is, after all of these years, you ended up going into the military.
Yeah, just follow right your footsteps. So
That's pretty cool. So, what are the things you saw me struggle with, and how did it impact you?
um, I guess the biggest thing I started struggle with was staying in contact or like staying around family as much as you could. Like that was
Right,
like even once you got out, like your drive was family, being around family, interacting with family. And it didn't always work out the way that you planned it.
right,
But you never really gave up. But it did kind of feel like a struggle for you to balance, all right, like being around family, but also getting what I need, getting what my family needs,
right.
and finding like the median between the two.
Okay. So, how did that, when you look at your life now and you look at, because family have always been like one of the bigger
Yeah.
things for me. So, how did that impact you now when you look at your life now?
Just for me, I would say, like, I definitely have a drive to be around family, but I know that I'm not the best at staying in contact with people. I try, and family is extremely important to me, but then I also struggle. I feel like I have the same struggle to find the balance between, family, being around family, spending time with family, but also, my own career, my own personal family.
Right,
Um, so that I would say I share a similar struggle, and
right.
I look to kind of some of what you did to guide me through my process.
That's pretty cool to hear that. So, when you look back in hindsight, some of the things that you've heard about me and the issues that I've been through in life, given the fact that I was molested, I've been raped, I was a functioning alcoholic. When you hear those things, because you were really young with some of those things, and some of
Right.
those things was before I even had you, but of course you've heard the story. So when you hear those things, how has those things impacted you?
Um, so in regards to you being molested and you being raped, it's given me a drive or like all right, I need to be more aware for both my wife and my daughter. And I mean
Mm,
my two sons for that matter, but especially for the two women in my life, like, all right, I need to be careful, keep checking up on my wife, make sure she's good, make sure she's okay wherever she goes, if she's by herself, making sure I listen to my daughter. Once she gets to that age, she's a little bit older, listen to my daughter, be able to hear her. Don't put her in any situation that might be compromising. Um, and then as far as you being a functional alcoholic, it kind of informed some of my decisions, especially in college.
right,
I kind of had a rule because I know alcoholism can be hereditary,
right,
that I wouldn't go drink by myself. If I found myself where I'm gonna go drink by myself, like I drank a lot, I socially drank, I did more than my fair share, but it was a kind of a rule. Even when I was blacked out, don't go drink by yourself because that's gonna lead you down a dark path.
right,
I think knowing that about you kind of helped me to set certain limits in an area that most people say, well, you're drunk, you don't have any limits, or you don't have any blockers on what you would do. There was something that was just deeply ingrained in me that kept me from what I felt like was going too far.
right. Because I've always talked to you about having those limitations, having those
Right.
boundaries, because I've never been oblivious to the fact that my children may venture down some of the roads that I've been down and may experience some of the things that I've experienced. So I've always wanted to give you the precautionary measures, what to do, what not to do,
Right.
not to allow yourself to be by yourself, or even being out with friends that you can trust. Because some people will drink with people and then, they just kind of disappear on them and
Right.
then leave them by themselves. So that's another measure that I've always placed there for you, to make sure you're with people that you can trust, and hoping that from my stories that I've shared with you, that they would help you to not go down the same path that
Yeah.
mom went down.
I mean, it has, definitely has.
Has helped you not to go
Down
that path.
Yeah, because I mean, it would have been very easy.
Right.
Definitely. I mean, being college, people do what they do.
Right.
Being in the military, people just do what they do.
Definitely.
So it's just something that has stuck with me, even up until this point.
That's awesome. So when you look at me, what would you say your perception of me as a child was versus your perception of me now?
I think so. Back then, I was like, "My mom's a superhero." I still feel like you're a superhero, but
Oh, wow.
in a different way. Like
Okay.
you're a strong woman. You're a strong black woman. You're a strong person. So you're a superhero in my eyes, but for a lot of the same, but also different reasons than when I was younger. Like for me, I just saw you doing your job as you being a superhero. Now you do your job, but like on a whole different level, if you know what I mean. Like
So
not working for somebody else, but like being a mom, being a wife, all this stuff, like being a powerful woman of God. Like you're doing your job. These are I feel like these are jobs.
right.
But you're still like excelling at them. In my eyes, I really believe so. So you're a superhero still.
Wow. I had no idea that you like really like for real. I had no idea that you even thought of me that way. Like
I don't say it, but
because I've never thought of myself as a superhero, and there was a point that I had no confidence in what I did or even being a mom. Like I didn't think that I even impacted you like that you even saw me in that light, because I struggled with who I was. And even at times now, I still struggle with like, am I doing the right thing? Am I saying the right thing? Am I setting the right example? Because I've even shared that, given the fact that I have 3 sons and never had any daughters, that now I have 2 grandsons and a granddaughter. And my granddaughter scares me because I want to make sure that I'm being the example for her as a woman, as a wife, as a mom, but most importantly, as a person. And so when I look at her, it's like a mirror, me looking at myself and saying, are you doing what you're supposed to be doing? So as a grandmother, if you was to take the very question that I asked you, how do you see me as a grandmother?
I mean, you're fully engaged. She's only 10 months, so there's only so much you can do. But
Right.
like, I feel like you're just like waiting for her to get a little bit. Like you're just like, that person that's like ready to like jump into the jump rope or the double dutch rope, and they're just like, yeah, I'm ready. Just put me in, coach. Like I feel like you're just like waiting for her to get just a little bit older, so you can just pour all that you're able to into her.
Definitely. I can't wait for her to get a little bit older. I mean, even with my grandsons, but I'm a boy mom, so like it's easy with
It's
them.
like, oh, it's just like all the other ones.
Yeah, it's easy with them. It's not easy when I see Bella. Like it's not, the first thing I do is reflect on every life decision that I've ever made when it comes to her. Because like I said, I'm a boy mom. That part is easy. So having grandsons, I know what to do. Having a granddaughter, I don't know what to do. I don't. It makes me nervous. So it's my hope that, not that she sees me as a superhero, but that I'm a great impact on her life as a woman. Because a lot of times we don't have everyone around us to impact us sometimes the way that we want.
Right.
So it's my hope and my desire that I can impact her the way that she desires, but most importantly, the way that God desires for me to impact her life. And I will ask you, overall, how has my life impacted you?
Well, like I said, it definitely informed a lot of my decisions. Just outside of drinking or whatever, just it's informed a lot of my decisions on how I raise my family, how I interact with my spouse, my children, um, how I push towards my own career.
Right.
Like how I keep from giving up and knowing that I always have someone to talk to. Like if I'm just completely like not oblivious, but I'm lost on what to do, I know I pick up the phone and be like, "Hey, mom, like I don't know what I'm doing. Like I am confused."
Right.
And you'll be able to guide me. You may not give me the answer or an answer, but like just talking to you, I'm just like, oh, okay, that's what was going on here. Like I didn't say that much, son, but like if you got it, you got it.
Right.
So,
I mean, because I like to walk you through whatever the situation is. You know, a lot of times I realize that some parents will, this is the answer, will tell their adult children what the answer is and what to do.
right.
And it's not my goal to tell you what to do, but to help shine light on whatever your situation is, that you come up with the answer.
Right.
Because what good does it do if I just kind of give you the answer, and then if you rebelling against that, like, mom, that's not what that is,
Yeah.
you know, or mom, I don't want to do that. So it's better for you to come up with the answer. So it's always a thing for me to just kind of just shine the light on it for you, and to walk down this path and this journey with you so that you can unfold it yourself instead of me unfolding it for you. I think it's more impactful for you to figure it out. But sometimes I'm just there as a guide and not to like tell you what to do,
Right.
you know, because some parents like to tell their kids what to do.
Yeah.
So now that you are a parent, how have I inspired you as a parent?
So you've taught me that it's okay to show emotion. It's okay to, if you don't really know, to explain it to your child. This is everything I do know, but let's go find out together. Like something that I can't just give the answer to, or knowing that I can't always just give them the answer.
Right.
Sometimes I have to lead them and guide them towards the answer. They're still young now, so there's only so much guiding I can do versus, hey, this is what it is and this is how you do this. But just knowing that, like, don't give up. If you're unsure, continue to press on, because like you'll figure it out so that they can figure it out.
Right. And you know, you got to be that guy for them, because obviously they're not gonna know everything. But most importantly, I believe that when you're honest with your children and you tell them, look, I don't have the answer, but let's go do this together. We're gonna go figure this out together. So we both gonna get the answer together, because it shows them that no, you don't know everything, but yet you're willing to do the work with them,
Right.
and not just say, oh, go find it yourself because I don't know, or even trying to pretend that you know something you don't know. Because I think that's the worst thing, is when you pretend to know and you don't know.
Right. I think to that point, like there's stuff, especially when I was in school, stuff you genuinely was like, I don't know, I can't help you, but you were still excited or at least interested enough to, like, when I came back, hey, mom, this was the answer to this. Like, oh, okay. Where'd you figure that out? Oh, that's cool. Like, so you were still fully engaged in something you had you may not even really cared about it, but you were engaged enough to be like, to show me some type of engagement or some type of like effort towards like something that I was asking you about.
There's definitely a lot of things I didn't understand about college, because I didn't go to college after school. I didn't graduate from high school. So now at 46, being in college, like there's so much that I understand now that I didn't understand then. And college has been a real struggle for me, you know, dealing with definitely childhood things that were said to me. But now being in college, I find myself coming to you, asking you for help. Like, can you help me with this? Because I don't know what this is. So I feel like the tables has flipped.
Definitely. There's a lot of stuff, like I'll be going through midterms or finals. I was being doing my classes, and you'll be like, why are you doing that? Or why are you saying this? And then, like, it's funny hearing it come out of your mouth. Like, you'll be taking a class, you're like, I don't feel like doing this. I'm just not going to do this assignment right now. I'll do it. And when it came out of my mouth, you're like, Sage, you better do that assignment. Like, do all your work. You need all your points. It is just funny hearing it now. I'm like, oh, so you're not going to do that assignment, huh, Mom? Huh, isn't that interesting?
So you're having fun with the fact
Oh, yeah,
that you can tell me,
it's
Mom, do
hilarious.
your work.
Yes, completely. It is hilarious.
I'm sure you're enjoying every aspect of it.
Yes, I am.
But I like the fact of being in this position. Like, I don't feel, there was a point that I felt like less than as a mom because I didn't go to college. I didn't graduate from high school. I've watched you walk across the stage at high school, and then I watched you walk across the stage for college, and I felt for a moment less than at that time because it was like, wow, my son achieved two things that I didn't achieve. And so it was something that I struggled with, not because of you, but because of me. You see what I'm saying? Like, it was like, wow, he did this and I was able to support you through the process, but it made me reflect on me and look back and say, okay, you didn't finish this and you didn't finish this. And so, I had to kind of push myself out of not having the confidence, but stepping into it. So it was extremely scary to step and go into college. It was extremely scary because I didn't know if I could do it. I didn't know if I had the ability to do it or even if I was intelligent enough, because I even questioned, my own intelligence as to whether or not I can do a college course. And for a moment I felt like, okay, I didn't finish high school. So since I didn't finish high school, I wasn't intelligent enough to do that. Therefore, I'm not intelligent enough to get through college. So now looking at the fact that I've completed 2 years of college, and the fact that I've leaned on you, I can say that I'm not that parent that's so in a place where I couldn't come to you for help.
Right.
Some parents feel shame that they can't go to their children for help because they feel like that's something that they should have achieved. So even though I didn't achieve it prior to you achieving it, I didn't feel like I couldn't come to you and ask you for help.
Right.
And there are days that you definitely pushed me. I mean, there's days that I sat on the computer and on the phone crying because I'm like, I can't do this. But you truly inspired me to push past like my own limitation and boundary to do the work, and for that, I'm grateful because that's something that I learned from you to be able to push, and it's funny because although I'm the mother, one would think that the parent should have it all, but what I see is everything that I poured into you, and everything Dad poured into you, you took those things and then poured them back into Mom. So it's a constant cycle. And for me, that's one of the most beautiful connections that we have because you have read and edited sermons, papers, writings. I'm like, Isaias, can you read this and make sure it's right? And so for me, I can say that it's been a true blessing, and I wouldn't, looking back, I wouldn't have it any other way, truly, because it goes to show, how much you've grown and also how much you receive from what was being taught to you, and I would have never thought that I would be like in that position because I didn't ever think I was going to go to college. Who would have thought, and so now I want to ask you, how has my life helped you to become a better person?
Again, just seeing how much you continue to press and fight through any struggle or any difficulty you face. Just knowing that, hey, if my mom could do this, I can do it too. Wow. Just knowing also that like I would always have that support system. Like if I was unsure or doubtful or just didn't know, I knew that you would always be there to support me through whatever I did.
I appreciate that. I appreciate that.
No, I appreciate you.
Oh. So, what questions do you have for Mom? Like, is there a hard question, a difficult question, a question you always wanted to ask that you've never asked?
I think one is like, so I definitely see the end result of how hard you pushed me, and I see the benefit of it. But like, why did you push me so hard? Because sometimes it feels like, man, like mom was always on my case, like was always pushing me. Like in high school, I just wanted to be like everybody else, hang out with people I consider my friends. Why? Like, why'd you push me
Why?
so hard?
Okay, so I pushed you that hard, one, because I knew the ability that was in you. I knew the intelligence level that you had. You've been in school. You was in school from the age of 3. You was in preschool, and so you told your teacher one year, that you wasn't this average person, right? And so that's something that actually stuck into that teacher's mind. Like she still holds on to that, but you was never average. You was never the average child. And so because I knew you wasn't average, I wasn't going to allow you to be average. You got to this place where you just like, I just want to be like everybody else. Well, you're not like everybody else. You're unique and you're different. That was one of the reasons, but also I know what my struggle was growing up. I know what my childhood was like, and the things that I struggled with. And I wished that I had, when it came to school, I wish I had someone pushing me like that. I wish I had someone checking my homework every day, making sure that, my homework was done, and not just done on an average level, but me doing the work on the level that of my intelligence, right? And so because in certain areas I didn't have that growing up, and so looking back as an adult when I had you, I was determined to give you something different. I was determined to push you beyond what you thought your limits were. Because we all have our own thought process of what we think,
Right.
of ourselves, or even we have our own limitations that we put on ourselves. And so because I saw what I saw in you, and because I didn't want you to lack in anything, and I wanted you to have better than what I had, that was why I pushed you. And I pushed you all the way through school. I pushed you through high school. You graduated a year early, and then pushing you all the way through college, not allowing you to give up, because I just saw greatness in you. I look at all of my children and I see greatness in all of you, but not the same type of greatness. And for you, because you're such an intellectual person, you've always been that person. Even as a child, your statement would be, I'll figure it out. And as an adult, it's still, I'll figure it out.
Of course.
So because I heard you even make that statement at like the age of 8 years old, like what 8-year-old say, I'll figure it out. That means you're thinking about what you're going through. You're thinking about the situation, the issues, and you're trying to look for a solution. So for that, I wasn't going to allow you to give up on yourself, and I was going to push you as far as I could push you without breaking you.
Well, it felt like I broke a couple of times.
I'm sure it did. And I got plenty of phone calls where you felt that way. But look at where you are now. Look at the fact that you made it all the way through school, graduating a year early. You made it through college, with all the struggles you had, and you were successful in those things. And now I'm being in the military, going through the process. And so I look at the fact that, you're an amazing young man. You was an amazing child. Like, I can't complain at all, because I look at you and I look at everything that you've gone through, and you inspire me to keep pushing. You inspire me to look for resolutions. I'll figure it out, even though, we've said, you don't have to always figure it out on your own. But it makes me stop and think, okay, what are the solutions or possible solutions that I have? That's something that, again, you said at a very young age, that made me really think and look at me and reflect on me. Because of you, I pushed harder to be better and to do better, because I also didn't want you in the same environment that I grew up in. I wanted you in a better environment, which is you're the reason why I went into the military.
Really?
Yeah, you're the reason why I went in, because I wanted you to have a better life than what I had. I wanted you to be able to explore life and journey and do all of these things, without limitation and without boundary, and even though I've come from a rough background and have been through a lot of things, I also wanted to show you that although I've gone through a lot of things and I've come from a rough background, doesn't mean that I had to stay there.
Right.
And so that God allowed me to give you something greater, and so moving forward, I think my last question for you, when you look at me as a woman of God, like the person, what do you see?
I see a battle axe. No,
Okay.
really, I see somebody who's unshakable, like genuinely unshakable. Someone who can almost like stand like in that area. Like for me, like I'm sure you pray for me, as you pray for anybody else, but just like I know, like, my mom is a conduit of spiritual power. Like,
Wow.
if I could say it like that, like I know that you are truly strong when it comes to the spirit. So yeah, that's why I look at you when like spiritually, like it's just like, nobody has the right to make any judgment, but like I see you going to heaven because of your deep connection that you have to God.
Wow. Okay. I wasn't expecting that. I really wasn't. Wow.
Don't start crying now.
I mean, I didn't I it is my hope that I make it, and I struggle with things, and again wanting to make sure that I'm the best example for you and your brothers and everyone else around me. So you all have teased me about being a battle axe,
Yeah.
and have said Jesus is my homeboy, and I'm grateful and I'm humbled that you even see that in me as your mom, because you can see anything else. And so I'm grateful that I'm exemplifying Christ, that I'm exemplifying what God would want me to exemplify in your life. I'm at a loss for words right now because I wasn't expecting that, but I'm grateful. And son, I appreciate you and I love you more
I love
than
you too.
Whew.
That's a wrap on this brew. But don't let the pour stop here. Walk bold, live healed, sip slow. This is Coffee for Your Soul, where faith is hot, truth is strong, and Jesus is always in the room. Catch you next time.